Hey, everybody. Welcome. This is Michael Bracy with the Music Policy Forum, joining you from just outside of Washington, D.C. And it's our pleasure to welcome you to this month's edition of Music Policy Forum Live, our conversation program where we talk about all the things that we are hoping to see happen to lead to stronger, more resilient, and more equitable music ecosystems. It's been quite a month since we've last joined as a group. As always, we are incredibly appreciative of those of you who are joining us live, those of you who are able to watch us via the program archive. We know you have a lot on your plate, and everybody in this community is just juggling a lot of different things. So it means a lot to us that you are spending some of your Friday with us or catching up with us on the program archive. Before we get into our conversations today, a couple of news updates. A lot of this, again, you are following, and you know very well. This may be a little bit of news for some of you. First of all, as we said before at the beginning, you can always go back and participate or watch our programming via the website. Our producer, Alex Dolvin, does a great job of maintaining the archive and getting those programs up. That's at musicpolicyforum.org. Alex has put in a link in the chat. And as always, if you have questions, comments, ideas, inspiration, anything, including lightly worded constructive criticism, you can always email us at musicpolicyforum@gmail.com. Some developments and some news. Obviously, again, those of you who are participating in this program know that in September of 2021, that live music is kind of opening, and it's open, and it may not be the way we want it to be. It may not be exactly what we were hoping for and we're dreaming about. But the reality is that live music is getting back going in the States. And as such, we announced earlier this week at Music Policy Forum that we are making some evolutions and some transitions in our focus and in our work. And as part of that, we're going to be transitioning our Reopen Every Venue Safely pilot project. REVS is something that we've put a lot of resources and capacity into with 18 pilot cities across the United States for a little bit over a year and a half. And it's been incredibly rewarding and interesting and exciting and fulfilling work for all of us. But now now that music is reopening, it's important for us to kind of re-broaden our focus and really get into the broader set of issues why our organization was founded to deal with in the first place. And so we are in no way walking away from the reopening conversations. That's a lot of what we're going to talk about today's program and over the next months. But we also, again, recognize that the scope of what we're taking on as a community goes beyond the specifics of reopening, and we really need to be engaging in the broader conversation. Just two examples of what that looks like. Alex will put in the chat a really good article from the New York Times that I think came out this week. That's talking about infrastructure funding and talking about the scale of what may be coming out of Congress if they can reach final agreement. It's unclear if they can strike a deal, but it looks like they're likely to strike a deal. And a big question for all of us who care about music, public policy, and philanthropy is, where do we fit in that conversation? How do we think about cultural infrastructure? What does that mean in a granular sense? If the government is spending money at a large scale, how do we in the music community fit into that? We at Music Policy Forum really feel the need to be pushing those conversations and really trying to make those connections happen. Thinking more aspirationally, thinking big picture, again, a remarkable article from Pitchfork talking about some of the initiatives coming out of the UK and the whole idea led in part by the group Massive Attack over in the UK about strategies to reduce carbon emissions. I mean, these are the kind of conversations that need to be happening in the music community. And again, these are the kind of things that Music Policy Forum can and should be promoting and, again, putting connections to. So those are just two examples of a whole multitude of issue areas and different things that we're concerned about, that we're interested in. There are a lot more that we're going to be talking about over the next months and years. So again, long-winded way of saying that while we're transitioning the national REVS effort, and we know a lot of the local REVS pilot cities are going to continue to meet, and we'll talk more about that later. And we certainly are not walking away from that. We are just transitioning and accelerating, and we're really excited for the future. So with that as introduction, today's show is a little bit different because we actually pre-recorded 2 of our interviews due to travel and other schedule concerns. Our conversation today, we're really excited to be featuring conversations with 3 different Music Policy Forum board members, Ashlye Keaton from the Ella Project in New Orleans, Kate Becker from King County, and Dani Grant from the Mishawaka Amphitheatre up outside of Fort Collins. And a lot of what we're doing in today's program is just giving a sense of the kind of the range of activities that we're involved with and our board members are involved with. We had to pre-record. Ashlye has a legal clinic that she runs every Friday for the New Orleans creative community. That is just something she can't not do. So she's never able to join us live in these programs. And Kate is with her friends at a tree fort in Boise on a panel right now as we speak. So we had to pre-record both those conversations. And then Dani's going to join us live at the back end of the program to talk about some exciting things she's involved with in Colorado. So, but do feel free to put, if you're so inclined, let us know who you are, who's joining. If you are inclined, introduce yourself in the chat, who you are, where you're coming from. Put questions in the Q&A and we'll try to get to them as feels relevant, given that a couple of our interviews are pre-taped. But certainly we can try to address them as we go and enjoy the programming. So with that, Alex, why don't you go ahead and roll this interview conversation with Ashlye Keaton from the Ella Project in New Orleans. Thanks, everybody. Hey, everybody. We are thrilled to welcome our Music Policy Forum co-founder, the co-director and co-founder of the Ella Project in New Orleans, and all-around troublemaker Ashlye Keaton is able to join us today. Ashlye has a legal clinic that she runs every Friday for the New Orleans cultural community and is not able to join us live on our Friday programs, but she's been able to make time to pre-record this conversation, and we just can be happy to have her. So Ashlye, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So this is going to be a hard conversation. This is not happy, fun times. It's a little bit.
Where'd they go?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I know. It's been about a month since Ida came through New Orleans. Why don't we just
a month already?
A little bit less than a month. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's just start with the basics and then we'll kind of broaden the conversation out from there. So how are you? How are your people? How's the city? What do we need to know on the ground in terms of what's happening right now in New Orleans?
I mean, we're fine. We're fine. We're not fine. We're as fine as anyone is right now. I mean, the difference between, New Orleans and, where we are right now and the health of our cultural ecosystem and creative industries and all of the other, component parts of our city and our community, we're where the rest of the country is, except that we just got hit by a hurricane. And, we get hit by hurricanes here. That happens. This is not a Katrina situation. You live in New Orleans, you know that you're going to get hit by a hurricane, right? I mean, it happens. And no one ever says, oh, that was a pleasant hurricane that came through. Hurricanes, sometimes they're worse than others. And this one, the city really kind of dodged a bullet in some ways. I mean, everyone had damage, and some people had a lot of damage. And so I don't mean to detract from that, but this was, kind of beyond the fact that, the huge energy tower fell into the Mississippi River where, 22 barges were accidentally released. And, just you can imagine it's like a bad action movie. Beyond the fact that we lost everyone and the city lost power for so long, which is, that's a consequence of the storm. Beyond that, this would have just been another, hurricane, which always results in damage. Not having power for a long time when it's really hot outside is not great, but that happens too. It's just that when that happens, you have this confluence of all of the things that we're all going through, COVID, and then we have this huge Delta variant, and we everyone knows that we've been somehow the epicenter for all of this. And then you throw, it's supposed to be a Category 2 hurricane that turned into a Cat 4, almost a Category 5 rather quickly. We usually get about a week and a half notice, and within 4 days we had notice and the storm was over, and it went from a Category 2 to a Category 5 basically, and beat up on us for a good 12 hours straight here, and completely decimated communities west of us. And we didn't have, it was almost like, I grew up in Arkansas, a tornado warning. It's not the same. Tornadoes happen, very quickly. But what's so profound about this, and this is like the third or fourth storm where this has happened, in the past few years, is that it begs the question of how do you prepare? How do you prepare, and how do you cope with being on edge? Because we were prepared for a Category 2. That's a whole different ballgame from a Category 4, with no power for 10 days. And, when you have COVID still very, very much present in your community. And it's hard. It's, New Orleans does not have the market share cornered on suffering, but, we've there's a phrase, kicking us while you're down. And, we've been kicked pretty hard. And, we'll get back up. We'll take it to the streets. Eventually we will persevere, but it's hard. It's hard to do. And it's hard with all this uncertainty and with all of the, climate change and the questions that arise, and how you can sustain yourself, like how not just a community can be sustainable, not just a cultural community, but an individual in the context of all of this change, in the context of all this chaos, in the context of all of this, lack of infrastructure. It makes things really difficult. It makes getting through the day, very difficult. And so it's just hard. We're tired.
Yeah. And I think, and again, this is I think a really challenging conversation and difficult conversation. And certainly we all appreciate your willingness to come forward and just sort of share what's a lot of, obviously a lot of raw feelings, a lot of raw emotions. When we left off before the pandemic, one of the major initiatives that you've been working on through the Ella Project was sort of recognizing, sort of owning the fact that the cultural ecosystems in New Orleans fundamentally were not really working like they needed to. And, you had just taken delegations of city leaders to other communities to meet with their colleagues, in other cities to talk about public policy and infrastructure and philanthropy and, public media and just different ways of doing things. So you started, kind of headed into 2020 from this sort of working point of like, we're not doing things great. Then you have the shutdown. Then, as you said, you have Delta, which, part of what that meant for the New Orleans context was, an attempt, to hold Jazz Fest in the fall, which they had to cancel, an attempt to hold French Quarter Fest, which is canceled. And then this. And on top of this, and again, I'm not trying to,
freak me out.
Not trying to, whatever, but I just think we have to talk about this stuff,
Yeah.
Of, some major leaders in the creative community and the cultural community, including the recent passing after the hurricane of Benny Pete, who's an incredibly important figure in the New Orleans cultural scene. So, again, that's not really a question. And that's just sort of,
I'm glad you hit all those points.
Some context around everything you guys have been dealing with.
Well, yeah, and the loss of Benny Pete, who's the band leader and a co-founder for the Hot 8 Brass Band, and a very dear friend, a client, it's like family to me, and she, it's like family to much of New Orleans. And after Katrina was, the Hot 8 Brass Band and under Benny's leadership was a major symbol of perseverance and hope. They made an intentional decision after losing several band members, after a lot of personal tragedies, and of course, Katrina, which was a huge tragedy. I was part of this conversation where they sat down and said, okay, we have a choice. We don't have to do this. Are we going to do this? And they decided that it was too important. It was too important, not just for them to continue to play and take it to the streets and, and to be present within the community. But it was important for the recovery of New Orleans and the cultural recovery and just the recovery in general to have, with the understanding that, all of these tragedies had happened, and that for them to make that decision to get out and to sort of lead the charge to continue, for the sake of cultural continuity was just hugely important and more than symbolic. And, to lose Benny in the middle of all this is just a punch in the gut. It really is. And what I'm hoping for at some point is that, and what he wanted very much was for for cultural continuity, for the next generation to be able to pick up where the folks before them left off, and to continue all these authentic traditions and rituals and this heritage that is very much woven into the fabric of New Orleans that makes us so special. And that's something that is very hard to cope with, because right now we can't do we've been saying this for a year and a half with the pandemic. We can't safely engage in the very things that we're used to doing on a day-to-day basis. Some people get up in the morning and they listen to NPR, and that's part of like their thing. We get up on Sundays and we second line, right? And, when a tragedy happens, when people are without power, when you've got this Delta thing, you've got stupid tourists down here fucking everything up, you need each other. You need to be able to get out and see your people and embrace and dance and, listen to the music and be part of this cultural experience. And it's been removed. And when someone like Benny passes, for me, I have to wonder who's going to be the first to take the lead, and how does that happen? When does that happen? When is it safe to do that? And, will it happen? And of course it will happen. Of course it will happen. But I say, of course it will happen. And I think that's, I think maybe we should stop saying, of course it will happen. Mm-hmm. I think that's something that, taking this culture for granted has been happening for centuries. And it's something that continues to happen. And, when we talk about, in the context of, supporting our cultural ecosystem and creative industries, I think that, from the municipal standpoint, we could see a lot more being done to recognize the impact of this, thing that makes New Orleans special. This, the reason why, pre-pandemic, we were the most visited tourist destination in the United States of America, why all these dollars, billions of dollars, $20 billion flow into New Orleans because of that thing, because of the thing that I'm talking about that Benny Pete led the charge on, So how do we take that magic that is actually reduced to dollars, and, through many different perspectives, right? How do we take that and honor it in a way that, shows, that demonstrates that it's not just the folks who enjoy it, while they're here, who value it, but it's also very critical to the entire economy of New Orleans. So how do the folks who make decisions on where money, that flows into the city is reinvested, how do we convince them once and for all to actually act and make meaningful decisions that have tangible outcomes that are very thoughtful and long-term, not just like we're going to, set up a micro grant fund or this or that, this Mickey Mouse stuff. How can we actually start to tackle the overarching problem of having a lack of infrastructure, a lack of support system, a lack of any sort of meaningful reinvestment into the very community, into the very creative industries that draw people here, that bring money here, but that keep people like me here, because I don't care about any of that money. I mean, I do, but I don't, right? Like the reason that I'm here is to experience this culture. But there are plenty of people who come here because they want to pay to experience that. And there are plenty of people who benefit from the money that flows into the city because of all of that. And so I feel like there's a great disparity between the level of investment that our music community and our cultural community put into the city versus the reinvestment that goes back into, what they are giving to us. It's almost like they're giving it away. They're giving away the thing that draws the magic here, right? That draws the people here, that draws the money here. How do we rectify that? And we were working on, like you said, to your point, pre-pandemic, there were several initiatives that we were engaged in trying to have broader conversations on how to not solve this problem, but to start to talk about it in ways that are more meaningful and develop systems that can, the bare minimum, further better cultural policies and practices. And, those got halted and they're not happening right now. And, it was easy to say during pandemic that, as if it's over, it's not, that, we can't really single out musicians and culture bearers and, creative industries because everyone is suffering so much. It's not just the cultural community. Well, at this point, we can single us. I think it's time to single us out because you know what? You can go to Saks Fifth Avenue. You can go to Dillard's. You can go to the grocery store. You can go to the fucking Gap. You can go to fucking Applebee's. You can go wherever you want, but you cannot go see a live music show without having to jump through all these hoops. Some of them are quite reasonable. And frankly, there's only so many shows you can go to because so many venues are still shut down because it is just, unless you're willing to either do best by breaking even or take a loss, it's just not smart to reopen right now. And for a lot of businesses. So yeah, it's time to single us out. It's time to single us out and prioritize the cultural community and the creative industries because we are continuing to take a much larger hit than everyone else, period.
Well, and there's something really important about New Orleans. I mean, again, the work that we do that you inspired and co-lead at Music Policy Forum, is this idea of saying, all right, how do we look at our multiplicity of experiences, but how we learn from each other and how do we see trends and patterns and how do we think differently about this? And certainly, one of our goals we've talked about, publicly for a long time is how do we, in a broader policy context, take music out as being thought of as just like another form of entertainment or just another, kind of, pop culture industry and think about it in terms of what the ultimate value is. And I think, I love, and again, I feel like I'm just teeing you up to get you mad or sad, and I don't need to be doing this, but
okay, I'm mad all the time.
There's something very elemental about, to build off what you're saying before, post-Katrina, very publicly, an elevation of sort of local, indigenous, authentic, quote unquote, New Orleans culture was central to the recovery strategies. And it worked extraordinarily well to the extent that with the advent of Airbnb and Vrbo, you had a lot of people who love New Orleans culture coming in, living there part-time, renting out their house, messing up housing markets or changing housing markets to the extent that many people in the community probably could not afford to live in those neighborhoods anymore.
Well, you're right. And I mean, and it's very sad, but just 10 miles west of us in one of the suburbs here, Kenner, and then part of Metairie, and of course, west of that was just decimated in part. I literally thought when I was driving a couple of days after Ida hit, and my house was 107 degrees, and if I opened up my windows, they were going to shatter. So I was like, I got to get the hell out of here. So, it's a smart thing to do if you do want to stay here, to stay through and make sure that you mitigate the damage that's been done. You put a tarp up, you clean your fridges out and all that kind of shit. For any of you who've experienced mail problems, imagine having mail problems post hurricane and just try getting lettuce. Like just don't try. Anyway, so I'm getting out of here and I'm driving through Kenner, where our airport is located, and I'm seeing, I'm having flashbacks, post Katrina, and it wasn't that bad, and I shouldn't say that because there are parts that are, but you see huge live oak trees just like completely upside down, and roofs like off, like gone, and houses just pummeled. And all I thought, I thought, well, that's where Benny Pete moved, out of the Tremaine. That's where a lot of our musicians moved to Kenner and to the suburbs, because they couldn't afford to live there. I mean, hell, there's a whole HBO series, Wendell Pierce's character, in that series, a major theme in that is that he can't get a cab to come into the city from Kenner because, he can't afford to live in the Tremaine anymore. And that's the real shit. And so I'm thinking, God, they got hit hard. And I'm wondering, how many of our musicians are in these places that were hit the hardest, and what it's going to be like for them to try to get back again, and it's tricky, and it's to a larger theme that you brought up. I was thinking this morning when I was on my run, I was thinking about like how important music is to people, and music is very important. And I love to listen to music at night and in the morning and in the afternoon, whatever. I like music. Everyone likes music. Or music policy forum. All right. But it's not the music. And I know it's not going to be popular with folks. It's really not about the music for me. I mean, again, I love music, but it's about being around the music, the musicians, like as it's happening, I mean, as it's, being part of this, of the, not the show, but part of the experience that's not meant to be an experience. It's just something that happens, which is why it's so authentic, right? Mm-hmm. That's what's so important. And so I think about Benny Pete, who's passed, and I think about all the other folks who, are having an even harder time than the rest of us right now because of all of, this damage and what have you. And I think, how are they even, when are they going to be able to get out there, and selfishly, I need them. I don't need to put their album on and listen to it. I don't need to play OZ to be okay. I need to get out there and be around the musicians and to be around the Mardi Gras Indians and to be around the social aid and pleasure clubs and all of the people. It's this human condition, this human element that I am missing, that I think that, a lot of fellow New Orleanians are missing, because that's something that is part of, again, our ritual that's day to day. And it's something that, I don't take for granted. And it's something that's really hard to explain to folks who live elsewhere, because it just doesn't happen like this everywhere else, right? I mean, and it's very much, I mean, I think it's easy for people to go, okay, she's saying that's part of her day-to-day ritual, but it really is. I mean, it really is. And it's when it's removed, it's really hard. It's really hard to, it's really hard to get through the day when everything is, I mean, everyone experienced it during the pandemic when your whole routine is uprooted. And when that's part of your routine, and it's a question as to how it's going to come back and what that's going to look like, and whether it's going to be completely diluted, it's a hard thing to think about.
Yeah. So,
and I think it's really easy to say that we're going to come back. And of course, and I'm always the optimist. And of course, there will always be, cultural activity here, right? The question is, what's it going to look like, And I mean, it's a question. It's a very unpopular question. It's a very, 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 it sparks a lot of debate, right? But is it going to be what it looked like, what it felt like before? And what does before even mean? Does it mean like not before Katrina? Does it mean before 2010? Does it mean before Airbnb arrived, before the fucking pandemic, before, before the Delta, before Ida, before all, I mean, what does it look like? What is it, is it going to be, are we going to have like our authentic, culture bearers, leading the charge? And I know we will, but I hope we will. I mean, I know we will, but I don't think that I don't think that we can say safely that I think that we are mistaken. I think that we're greatly mistaken to presume that everything is going to be okay. And I think that is something that, we've been doing for way too long here. And I think this time, with the pandemic, compounded with all these, natural disasters and what have you, and just the mental health that comes just the decline in mental health, and physical health. I just found it. Another friend of mine who owned a major record store on Canal Street died this morning, and he was younger than you, Michael Bracy. It's just out of nowhere. And I think the stress is like causing a lot of problems. And what does that mean? Only time will tell, I guess. It's a very uplifting conversation. Sorry.
No, that's we truth in advertising. We said this would be hard. So and we're gonna have to wrap it up at this point, Ashlye. It's great to see you and great to hear from you as always. And we so appreciate you and everyone in New Orleans. And this is our obligation, right? We've got to speak the truth that we see the truth is, right? We can't, we can't, kind of paper over what the real challenges are. And we've got to be, really strong and vigilant and visionary to see if there are solutions. Well,
and then just real quick, one last point, next steps are important, right? And so I know that you're going to be talking about Kate, about her like $25 million fund or what have you. Wow. Right. So that should be our next step. Like our city, that's one thing. Okay. So the city can't fix everything, and nor should they, but the city can prioritize our musician community, our cultural community. It can engage in better policies and practices towards the cultural infrastructure. And it can allocate resources and prioritize our cultural community and creative industries in doing so. Other cities are doing it. We should be doing it too.
There you go. Thank you, Ashlye.
Thank you.
Have a good clinic, and we'll talk to you real soon.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks. Thanks again to Ashlye for that conversation. A lot to that. And we just always appreciate her. Appreciate the work that she and her colleagues do at the Ella Project and the whole community of cultural leaders in New Orleans that mean so much to us. And we hold them all very, very close to our hearts. Before we go to the conversation with Kate Becker, I want to let people know at the end of the show today, we're going to go a little bit long. Just because we have a lot of things we're trying to get through. And now that we're a monthly program, we don't get to do this as much as we used to. But when we get to the end of the segment with Dani, we're going to open the floor a little bit. So if you have updates from your community, if there's little things you'd like to share, I know we're going to hear from Sarah Henry from Austin. Just raise your hand, and we're not going to be able to get to everybody, but certainly we'd love to invite a couple of people if they want to just weigh in with just kind of quick updates on what's happening with their music scene and what they are taking away from today's conversation. We certainly would love to offer the floor to you. So we'll be doing that after our conversation with Kate and after our conversation with Dani. So Alex, let's roll the interview with Kate, if you could, please. Hey, everybody. We are thrilled to welcome in Kate Becker, our Music Policy Forum co-conspirator and the person who is leading up many, many efforts in King County in the Seattle region around creative economy and recovery, among other things. Kate, thanks for making time to join us today.
So happy to be with you, Michael.
And similar to having a pre-record with Ashlye, now we're pre-recording with Kate because you're going to be in transit tomorrow during the live show. You're headed to Boise to be part of the Tree Fort community. So that's exciting.
Yes, my first time. Super excited.
Yeah, I can't wait to get the report on how everything's going. I know that Eric and Nathan and the Tree Fort team is working incredibly hard to keep it safe and valuable for everybody. I know you're speaking on a couple panels, so look forward to getting the report and certainly look forward to hitting Tree Fort hopefully next March and in future installments. So we wanted you to come, Kate, for a couple of reasons. Again, it's been about a month since we had Steven Severn on the program talking about sort of venue issues and reopening complexities in the region. Why don't we just start with how are things going out there? What's the latest? What do we need to know? Live music's getting back going in the King County region, but I know it's still an incredibly complicated time for everybody.
It sure is. It is rough out there, Michael. But I have to say, hats off to our music venue owners who really led the way, along with our performing arts organizations, of setting a really good safety standard for people coming back into large groups to see music and performances. And they the front lines of establishing good protocol around this. The county has followed that. King County has now put our own vax verification plan into place to help support the work of those frontline people who are trying to keep crowds safe as we all get back to some semblance of normalcy.
And how are your numbers, or have things plateaued? Or are you, I mean, what are the scientists saying about the Delta variant at this point?
Oh, well, the sad news in Washington is our hospital capacity is getting better because more people are dying.
Right.
That's the harsh reality of what is happening here. Large volume of people vaxxed here. I believe 68.9% of all people are double vaxxed, fully vaxxed, and in their window of full vaccination in King County. And a higher percentage than that have had one vaccination. So we're trying to get to that full vaxxed community now.
And something that has been, just really, incredibly impactful for me and very moving to be, sort of aligned with has been the Revs community that, has been functioning in the Seattle and King County region. It's been one of our most active and engaged pilot communities. And as we kind of get to this moment with the Revs initiative, as I talked about at the beginning of the program, where we're going to be kind of transitioning the national structure and the full 18-city cohort, but sort of moving into the next stage of work, I understand that Seattle and King County is going to continue to meet as a Revs cohort, or at least that's the intent at this stage. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. That is the intent, Michael, because thank you for joining us for all these meetings throughout the last 18 months. It's been so great to have you as our national guest and give a national perspective to the Seattle King County Revs team. But yes, these venue owners and operators have worked so collaboratively together and really supported each other in a way that has been nothing short of absolutely inspiring in these difficult times. It makes me think, like, if government and politicians could just work together the way that these music venues have worked together to lift the whole, to help each other out, to be genuinely concerned with each other's well-being, we'd just be in such a better place. But the Revs team has been so fantastic. And yeah, they want to stick together and keep helping each other out as we move forward.
That's awesome. And certainly we would love for, we feel confident that in a number of the pilots, there's going to be some ongoing, certainly some informal relationships have been built. Hopefully some formal infrastructure has organically either been created or has been, sort of reinforced through, through this cohort. So it'll be exciting to kind of see how that continues over time. And a big part, again, of our decision to kind of do it's not really a sunsetting or an ending of Revs, but really it's more of an expansion of Revs. This notion that we're kind of getting back to our core mission of Music Policy Forum, which again is to try to build and create stronger, more resilient, and more equitable music ecosystems. A big part of that is the role of public policy, of public funding, of philanthropy. Could you speak a little bit about the announcement in the last couple of weeks around King County's next wave of relief funding going into the creative ecosystem?
Yes, I am really proud of our executive and our council for passing a large creative sector recovery budget. In fact, they passed $34.4 million in ARPA funding to go to the creative sector. So that includes large arts and culture organizations, small and mid-sized arts and culture organizations, independent live music venues, independent movie theaters, and science organizations. That's where we are putting our focus right now with this wave of funding. But I believe it is the most significant creative sector funding I have ever seen in this region, and I have been here nearly 3 decades.
And how is that funding administered? Who is it targeted for? I mean, I know broadly is that for the community, but how does that fit different than like a shuttered venue operator grant, kind of funding?
So there are some similarities. There are strict guidelines that come from the Treasury Department that have made it rather complex. But if you can prove your losses in your last full season or your last full year, you have losses that you have not compensated for and or you are moving forward with a partial house while trying to get back into business, but you're not at full capacity. That is where we are targeting this funding. We want people now to be able to move forward. And if they can't move forward by selling enough tickets to meet their bottom line, but they are trying to meet our public health protocols and keep people safe, we want them to be able to continue doing business, hire their people back. So many cultural workers have been unemployed. So getting those people back to work is essential, and finding a way to do that and keep business alive while we still have this pandemic going on is the heart of the goals of this funding.
That's fantastic, Kate. I know it'll be tricky for people to have their questions answered in real time since we're having to pre-record today, but we have the information in the chat about these programs that you can link to, and certainly email us at musicpolicyforum@gmail.com if you have specific questions, and we can try to get some answers from Kate or from others. We may do a standalone session down the road on this particular initiative for city employees that are looking to implement something similar in their communities. So Kate, I want to ask you kind of a philosophical question, because again, Ashlye went really deep, and it was a remarkable conversation with her, because I think, we're in this really difficult part of the pandemic where, again, we've been focused for so long on the mechanics of reopening safely. We've been focusing on relief and, triage efforts, for lack of a better word. And, we also are, again, reminded on the underlying mission of why all of us do this work to begin with, which was, it's not that things were completely hunky-dory 18 months ago. If you think about where we were in December 2019, there was a lot of work that we were doing and need to do that we're passionate about. And now we're getting ready to re-engage with that work, but re-engage with the experience of the pandemic, with the experience of the economic crisis, but with stronger networks and some relationships we didn't have, and some imagination around what could happen with federal policy and some other things. So not to kind of put you on the spot, but I would love just some kind of top of mind thoughts about, as you're getting ready again, and Music Policy Forum is getting ready to kind of re-embrace this broader mission and these broader, sort of policy issues and convenings and other things we're going to be doing beyond the specific focus of reopening. What are some of the things that you think about as we get ready to move into this next phase of the journey?
Well, as you referenced, Michael, the system was not perfect. The ecosystem was not working for everyone as we started this pandemic. And so more than ever, we need to be focused on how do we make sure we are creating or fortifying opportunity where it hasn't existed before? How do we make sure that we are really being inclusive in our approach and addressing the issues that are right now critical, and trying to stem the tide of loss of our musicians in our creative sector? For instance, vulnerable cultural spaces have really been overlooked during the pandemic because we've all had such a high priority on public health. But our musicians have had to struggle during this time to try to support themselves with varying levels of support from our government, depending on how they could prove their previous income levels. So these things have gotten so complicated, but a lot of our musicians have had to go find jobs that they otherwise would not have found, and just really looking out for where are the places where we can stem the tide of loss right now and fortify and keep people working together so that we can have the creative ecosystem that we want. There are so many places where there is opportunity for us to do this good work. And I am excited for Music Policy Forum to move into our next phase of addressing some of these issues and really trying on a national scale to raise the tide for everyone in the music ecosystem. We are out here in the Northwest working with 3 other states on a Cascadia Music Corridor initiative, because we know that the health of the region, the large region, is important to the success of each of our individual efforts. So I am glad that we are partnering with Oregon, Idaho, and Alaska right now to really do this Northwest Cascadia Corridor thing out here. Excuse me, I've been talking too much this morning, Michael. Yeah.
That's Yeah, Kate, that's so exciting, and something Ashlye and I were talking about previously, but I just to hold up is, one of the things that Ashlye was able to work on, Ashlye and her team was able to work on with you and your team in Seattle, was a sort of a knowledge exchange visit with a delegation of New Orleans public officials coming to Seattle, going to San Francisco, meeting with their colleagues in other communities, talking in a very granular level about policy initiatives, the role of philanthropy, how these systems work. And I know something that you and I are both very excited about as we hopefully get to a new era where we can get face-to-face and we can travel again, are putting together these smaller convenings, these, again, knowledge exchange, retreats, whatever you want to call them. So something that we really encourage everybody who's watching, if you are interested in trying to put together a delegation to come to your community, if you want to be part of these meetings moving forward, we're going to be doing our larger conferences and things like that as we move forward, and larger in-person events. We're going to be doing our virtual events, but there's nothing like getting the right 12 to 15 people together for 3 or 4 days to just really drill in on common issues. So, always keep in touch, email us, let us know if you're interested. Let's start brainstorming, let's start planning so we can put these things in place, hopefully, starting early next year.
I can't wait.
Can't wait. All right. Well, Kate Becker, thank you as always for your leadership and friendship and inspiration. Give everybody in Boise a elbow bump from us, and have an amazing time at Tree Fort. And we look forward to hearing how that goes and talking to you soon.
Thank you so much, Michael.
Bye now.
Bye.
Thanks again to Kate Becker for joining us. And we are incredibly excited about the everything they're up to in King County, including that Creative Economy Recovery Fund. So we can't wait to see how that plays out over the next couple of months. And now we're thrilled to bring in Dani Grant, joining us from outside of Fort Collins, Colorado. Dani is another Music Policy Forum board member, the owner-operator of the Mishawaka Amphitheatre, which everybody should try to come visit. And real quick, Dani, let's just around the horn real quick. How are you doing? I mean, let's not go deep on this, but everything okay in Colorado?
You don't want to go deep on how I'm doing, for sure. No, Colorado's doing well. The statewide numbers are not as good as the county that I live in, which is I'm in a university town, that kind of thing. We're at 55.6% fully vaccinated in Colorado, but we're up at about 77 in Larimer County, where I live and where my venues are. But it's business as usual around here. There are no restrictions here. There are a lot of recommendations and thoughts around, things we can do to be safe and to keep our neighbors safe. But it's business as usual here in Colorado. And a couple of things, I really want to get to the roundtable, and hopefully Colin, can jump in a little bit. But the first thing I want to share is that there are still resources out there that haven't been depleted for arts relief funds. And I would encourage you, if you're out there trying to support artists or communities that are still struggling, to hit up your local places to find out what those are. Colorado Creative Industries right now, Margaret Hunt, a great friend of ours, Michael, who runs Colorado Creative Industries, is actually out on the streets in Denver talking to buskers, trying to get them to apply for these relief funds that are available, because she's very concerned that all this money is not going to get out to artists. So Alex, I give you that chat link. Yeah, there it is. So if you know people in Colorado, musicians, people who are still struggling, send them there. And one of the things that I've been working on with Colin is launching Black Fret in Colorado, which is a granting organization, patron model granting organization that supports artists. And right now, coming out of COVID, is an incredible time to try and really focus in on what's happening in artists' careers and trying to be seeking out those artists who are trying to take the next step to move forward and try and get them significant capital to get that done. And so I've been working really hard on that. I'm super excited about it. I know Colin can share more about it. And then I'm excited to hear from the roundtable people too about what's going on.
Yeah, so we're kind of making a little bit of news today. So we're thrilled that Colin Kendrick, the co-founder of Black Fret, is being able to join us. We've really enjoyed featuring Black Fret in previous programs, and obviously friends of MPF and the field. And for, as many of you know, Black Fret founded and started in Austin, Texas, opened a Seattle chapter recently. And now after a a fairly lengthy evaluation and discernment process, is taking the leap to move into Colorado. So Colin, thanks for joining us. And why Colorado? What's happening there?
Oh, one, just, and the buzz around Colorado's music scene, at least from here in Austin, is significant. I mean, so many of the bands in Austin are being managed by folks out of Denver at this point in time, right? And the number of great musicians in that area are it's dramatic, right? And so Black Fred has always been looking very closely at Colorado as an expansion location for us, because part of what we're trying to do with the organization is to ultimately use the grant dollars we're providing to help artists accelerate time to audience. And so the money we give is great. It allows them to record new works and to tour in places they wouldn't, and to provide support for their communities in ways they might not. But at the end of the day, if we're going to make a meaningful difference in an artist's ability to make a living, it's about connecting those artists with fans. And our goal as an organization is to begin to connect these communities and these patrons in these different cities to enable our artists to collaborate and work together to grow fan base.
So exciting. And again, we love the Black Fret model, just to build on what you're saying, because you're really addressing two critical issues that need to be addressed: access to capital, and how musicians that are looking to build their career and move to the next level can pay the bills and cover the overhead and just the immense expense of what it takes to be a working and recording and touring musician. And on the flip side, engaging audiences and really helping connect people who may or may not be feeling like they have a home in the music economy or in the music scene in their community. And so putting some infrastructure around building those communities and your whole idea and your framework of really transitioning people into being patrons of the arts and making them feel like connectedness. So it's such an interesting model. And so Dani, you've gotten roped in. So you're helping sort of shepherd the organization in Colorado. How's that going?
It's going really well. I mean, I have had so many incredibly interested people who have come out and want to try and help us. And my job is to really try and create the strongest foothold I can to get this moving as quickly as possible. And, with the work that we've done with Band Swap and Spokesbuzz in the past, we have a lot of people already, at the table who have said historically that they're in. And Colorado is an interesting community. There are so many organizations and individuals and municipalities that are pro arts. And so one of the things we need to do is really connect them all to this organization and share with them how they can get it up and going. So that's what we've been up to. Interesting.
And then long-term, Colin, could you speak about sort of the balance of the incremental adding chapters vision and how that might connect to a long-term vision of where Black Fret may go over time?
Well, I mean, we haven't talked a lot about it publicly, but we're aspiring to be in 10 plus cities by the end of the decade. So we've been having some very good success in getting the word out about what we're doing. And I mean, the impact in Austin is over $2.2 million distributed just to musicians, and another 1.5 to local music business. Hey, dog, chiming in. So, the impact's really there. The rate of return on donor dollars is stunning. For every dollar we take from a member, we're generating $1.14 just to the bands. That doesn't even include the multipliers and economic impact in the broader community. And so we're actively engaged in identifying other markets to scale into. And then if you have a hopping live music scene, I guarantee you we're taking a really good look. We've looked at over 30 different markets at this point in time and have very ambitious plans to take this nationwide.
And I mean, it's obvious the potential impact that could have to have an artist forward organization with chapters in multiple markets, with advisors that are connected to each one of those cities. And, I just see like a whole new opportunity for indie venues and indie artists to create meaningful tours and, to really move into different spaces without having to have the right label or the right, big gorilla behind you. So.
Well, and we've talked about this in previous programs, and for those of you who have not had a chance to explore Black Fret, we put a link in the chat that you can poke around the website and contact information is in there, I'm sure, for Colin or for Dani. And you can always email us at Music Policy Forum, and we can connect you if you have some questions. But, again, just to do the through line of today's conversations, again, I think no one, certainly Colin, I know you would never, sort of claim that Black Fret is the solution to the structural challenges in the music community, but we all need to, really be thinking about what are the pragmatic, incremental things we can be doing that are making a meaningful difference in our scenes. And again, whether it's Kate and King County's recovery fund, the work that you're doing with Black Fret. I know that you guys have been, this expansion, part of what we love about it is that it's not coming from a sense that you guys feel the need to sort of colonize Black Fret for any reason other than you're responding to requests from people like me and from Dani and others, since Black Fret has existed, to say, hey, can you come to DC? Can you come to Colorado? Can you come to Seattle? So, we really appreciate the sort of intention with which you are really thinking about making sure that if you go into a new community, that it's not just good for Black Fret, but it's good for the community, that Black Fret's really aligning with all the other initiatives and strategies and vision of what's happening, in that region. So
yeah, all that's true. And when I listen to your opening comments today and hear Ashlye and Kate speak, we need help in all these areas, and the amount of money it takes to address the problems we're talking about is huge. And yeah, if you can get government to respond, that's where the real money is. But we're looking at symphonies and operas across the country that are running, budgets together well north of $1 billion in revenue. And if we can redirect that towards local musicians as this sort of, we view Black Fret as sort of the symphony and opera equivalent for popular local music. And there's a lot of money there that we can channel into helping our artists. And fundamentally, we don't believe that Austin really has the ability to change the economic future of our artists on our own. We have to get the musicians in these communities out of these communities and moving and interacting to succeed. I won't beat that drum anymore, but I appreciate the chance to talk.
I love it. Well, Dani, Colin, thank you so much for this update. It's always great to see you. Again, thank you for putting your contact information in the chat, and really encourage people, if you're interested in learning more and plugging into the work, definitely chase them. So we're going to do something that we haven't tried before to wrap up today's program, and we'll see if we do it again in the future. But we have invited folks, if you're interested, we're not going to have room for a lot of folks, but if you are interested in jumping in and just sharing a minute or two of what's happening in your community around reopening, around things you're thinking about, we'd love to hear from you. And Sarah Henry from City of Austin has volunteered to go first. If you are interested in also jumping in, just use the raise your hand function, and we'll bring you into the speaker's room. And if it's only Sarah, or if Sarah's not able to join us, then we'll just wrap this up and move on. Sarah, are you able to come in and say hi real quick? Or did we lose Sarah? Sarah Henry, are you able to join us and say hi real quick? Sarah's getting glitchy with the tech, she says. So I think what we're going to do is filibuster for a moment. One piece of news that we did want to hold up at the end of the program, and I'll go ahead and share this now. I want to wish the happiest of happy release days to our dear friend and inspiration, Erin McKeown. Erin's new album dropped today, including a fantastic music video, and we're going to put her website into the chat. New album produced by Steve Berlin from Los Lobos and producer of a bazillion amazing records. Erin, as most of you know, is a dear friend of Music Policy Forum and just an all-around rock star of a human being. So it's a great record. It's a great record to enjoy, listen to over a fall weekend. So we definitely encourage everybody to go and check that out. Sarah, apologies for tech, but we'll have you on a future program. And with that, I think we can move into our farewell. So thank you to Ashlye, thank you to Kate, thank you to Dani and Colin, thank you to all of you who have participated today. and all of you who have participated over the last 18 months as we've done this program. We will be back in October with an MPF Live and an MPF Labs session. As always, as I said before, email us with feedback, comments, questions, ideas, constructive criticism, musicpolicyforum@gmail.com. Please, if you heard something you enjoyed today, share the archive, send it to your friends, post it on social. Alex, our producer, always does a great job of turning this around as quickly as he can. I know for sure I'm going to be sharing a lot of the conversations today, not my part. I think but the guests really brought it with a lot of great ideas and insight and a lot of food for thought for all of us as we move forward. So I hope everybody has a safe and pleasant and fun weekend. Enjoy the fall weather. Don't get COVID, and we will see everybody in October. Thanks, everybody. Cheers.